There was a time in my life when nothing worked anymore. Not the spiritual practice, not the energy and healing work I had known for years, and knowledge and understanding were useless. Everything that had carried me before suddenly gave away. I fell into a dark night of the soul, and it lasted almost 3 years. What remained during that time was only one thing: the willingness to feel. To feel what wanted to be felt, to see what wanted to be seen. Without expectation, without wanting, without judgment. Without wanting to make it go away or change it. And in that willingness, something began to show itself. Layer by layer, something opened within me. And it revealed what was heavy, dark, and unloved. That which I had known was even there. And the more I was willing to truly feel it, the more it began to flow. Until eventually I sensed something that I had been avoiding my entire life. A loss of contact. An emptiness. A deep void I had never touched directly, because everything in me had always tried to bypass it. There was this deep not wanting to be here. This world was threatening and dark, too much, not safe. And I had been keeping life at arm's length for years, without even knowing I was doing that. And now being willing to feel all this, truly feel it, not just understand it, brought me fully into my body for the first time. Perception changed, experience changed, and only through this contact did I realize how far away and dissociated I had always been. And then energetic qualities began to flow. Qualities that had always been there, but covered, frozen, unreachable. The fear of life was gone. Instead, there was now compassion for myself. Today I call this process the golden thread. It is what revealed itself when I was truly willing to look. Since then, I have been guiding people through exactly this process. And I usually sense very quickly what they are carrying. They often describe to me a feeling of looking through a glass floor at something that lies deeper, but remains unreachable. Or taking 2 steps forward, only for an invisible elastic band to pull them back each time, despite everything they have already tried. What lies beneath, I perceive as an energetic loss of contact. A place where early in life, sometimes even before birth, sometimes across generations, access to a natural quality was interrupted. And around that void, mental structures built. Core beliefs, identities, protective strategies, all of it to avoid having to feel the void again. These structures cost an enormous amount of energy, and they prevent exactly what actually wants to integrate. I often meet people at thresholds like that, and I sense energetically what is being still held. And what they describe after this process often sounds similar. They are more here. As if contact with the natural aliveness has returned. A stability that doesn't need to be worked for, but is simply there. A willingness to be in life that wasn't possible before. And the whole is no longer there. This also shows itself in the awakening process. Whether you have experienced a first awakening, have already seen through the self, or are deeply anchored in non-dual experience, the golden thread can open a depth that may have remained untouched until now. Awakening will sooner or later bring up thresholds, barriers, moments when the process stalls. Not because the practice is wrong, but because there is a holding onto something that feels non-negotiable. Subtle fixations, barely perceptible resistances, a deeply rooted belief one cannot let go of, or simply fear of death or the collapse of identity. This can show up as a deep-seated belief about yourself, a non-negotiable perspective on how things are or are not. Fixating awakening experiences into states or new identities, or a holding onto the awakening process itself. Some of these fixations are simply concepts. They fall away when deconstructed and seen through. But some have deeper roots. Attached to them are early experiences, a loss of contact, an emptiness that doesn't want to be felt, because it feels like ceasing to exist, like loss of control, like too much. And it is precisely there where the fixation sits deeper that the golden thread begins. There I become a space holder and an energetic bridge to the deep. What I want to offer you is what I myself learned in the darkness. What you avoid keeps the void alive. What you are willing to feel begins to flow, because the loss of contact itself came from not feeling. And because what you are searching for is not waiting somewhere out there, it is already here. Maybe you feel that invisible barrier, that elastic band, that feeling that something is still holding on and cannot let go. What if that were the very next step? No longer avoid it, but to pass through.